Hello there and welcome to another episode of Cutting Through the Bullshit. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Snyder, and I am a high performance mentor. Through my unique blend of strategy, mindset, and intuition, I help men and women to cut through the BS in order to create the life and business they desire. So we're going to piggyback off of the last episode because as I was uploading that episode and going through my show notes, I realized that I forgot something very, very, very important in that episode. And the episode was about what do you need to feel safe? And we're going to take this a little step further and say, what is it that you need to feel safe to receive? And here's why this is important, okay? I actually had to work through this myself recently because my husband and I started we purchased a company recently, and we've had it for a few months and had not yet paid ourselves. I'm just going to be real truthful with you, right? We had money, we had made money, it was sitting in the account, but we hadn't paid ourselves yet. And I was doing the math and figuring out what it was that we could actually pay ourselves, right? Because we use a system called Profit First. If you don't know it, check it out. Highly recommend it. It has you be very intentional about the money in advance so that when it comes time to pay taxes and expenses and all of these things, you're not borrowing it out of your own pocket. You can actually pay yourself and your business is actually profitable from the start. Check it out for sure, okay? So we're using this process and I was calculating our percentage of what we could take home right? What our portion was based off of this system, okay? Because you put money into the Profit First account first, and then you do all the other things. And so I was calculating it out, and it was larger than I expected. And I had to sit with that. It was really uncomfortable to think that I could pay myself that and all of the other bills in the business still be paid. Because if you spend any time in business, it's very much a profit loss statement, right? Whereas the money comes in, the expenses are paid, you get whatever's left over, right? And I know this to not work in any area of life. I know this firsthand to not work specifically as a mom, turns out, right? So I operated off of this particular model, the broken model, for years and years and years and years and years, where it was everybody else got first servings of mom and I got whatever was left over, right? This is why I learned that chicken nuggets are actually quite delicious with red wine. This is also why sometimes my workouts happened at 11 o'clock at night when I was totally exhausted and wanted to go to bed anyways. This is also why I started to resent myself and my family because I was giving so much to everyone else first that there was very, very little left for me to actually give myself at the end of the day. Okay. And so if you're not paying yourself first, you are eventually going to start to resent your company. i.e., you have to feel safe to actually receive money from your company. And this can be hard for entrepreneurs to wrap their head around because they want to make sure that the bills are paid first. Well, let me give you a little caveat here. If you don't pay yourself first, no one else is going to, especially as the business owner. And one day you might wake up and resent this company that you've built because you're pouring all of your time and your money and your energy into it, and it's giving you nothing. Let that sink in. Okay? This was the same thing that was happening with my family. I was giving them all my time, all my money, all my energy, and I felt like I was getting nothing in return. And I started to feel a little resentful towards them. And I didn't like that feeling. And so I decided that something needed to change. And so I started to give to myself first, literally profited myself first. The same kind of module, right? Same kind of model here, where I said, okay, this giving to myself last is not working. So we can't continue to do this because I'm pouring from a really, 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 really empty cup. Speaking of, I'm going to take a sip of water because it's still very warm in my office. Don't you love this glass? My girlfriend got this glass for me. This is Martha Washington. I have a George Washington couple that goes with it, so it's matching glasses. We like to drink out of these vintage glasses when we get together. I don't know why. I do know why. There's a whole backstory, but I love this glass, and we're drinking out of it today. So those of you not watching the podcast, now you need to jump. I mean, not watching the podcast. I hope you're not watching the podcast. That's weird. Those of you not watching the YouTube, listening on the podcast, now you have to hop over and see the glass that I'm talking about. So my train of thought will come back in here, right? Okay, so I learned that I had to give to myself first in order to have enough energy, stamina, time, money to do all that was expected of me, right? And so what happened was I started to give to myself, and I started to have way more energy for everybody else. I know, it was the craziest thing. Imagine that. Imagine that. Now, back to the initial question here at hand was, do you feel safe to receive, right? So as I was calculating this and getting ready to pay myself, I didn't feel safe receiving the money because I was worried about whether or not the bills were going to be paid. And I had to coach myself through that moment and say, you've done the math. The expenses have been paid. And if there's a mistake, you readjust, right? You readjust accordingly. And it will all be okay. But this was starting that conversation about, what do you need to feel safe? Right? In terms of your business, you certainly want to know that your bills are paid for. And so you start in very, very small doses. Okay? The profit first model, right, teaches you to start with as little as 1% to just stick into your profit account. Because as you start to exercise giving to yourself first, then you start to find other areas where you can cut, where you can actually start to give yourself a regular paycheck. Same thing when it comes to your self-care. Okay, I started really, 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 really small, where I was giving myself 5 minutes a day in the bathroom before my kids woke up. Swear to God. Okay, 5 minutes a day, journaling. Sometimes I'd have to lock the door to actually give myself that space, right? But I had to work myself up to being able to give myself a few hours at the hair salon, to work myself up to regular nail appointments, to work myself up to a spa day kind of thing, right? I had to start giving to myself slowly, learning how to receive in small increments so that I could receive greater and greater and greater amounts of things. Now, when I say giving and receiving, these are two things that swing on a pendulum, okay? Oftentimes we spend a lot of time in our giving energy, and we will give until we feel totally exhausted, and we tend to be totally exhausted by the time we get home to our family, right? And so you've got to find spaces where you can actually fill yourself up in between all of the giving, or you've got to change your language around the thing, right? I was at a networking thing recently, and there was a gentleman who said, well, I give so much at work that I have nothing left for my family at the end of the day. And had he changed his language to, my work energizes me and I have plenty for my family at the end of the day, he would have viewed work differently because it would energize him through the day, right? I had to do this same thing for some of my clients. Years ago, I had a client that was a little bit draining, And I had to change my language around those calls because I would get off those calls and not want to do anything else. And so one, I did have to have tough conversations with this client, right, in regards to their energy. But I also had to reframe it myself and say, okay, this actually brings me life. Recording these podcasts, and I've mentioned this before, these YouTube videos, this gives me life where I have more energy for my family by the end of it. And so, again, you've got to be aware of where your energy is going. I talk about this all the time, right? That's key. And being honest with yourself and saying, you know what, maybe I can't make this thing better. Maybe this thing just needs to be a quit it kind of a thing. I hate it. I don't want to do it anymore. Let's send it out the window, right? But other times you can simply reframe around it, right? If you're not ready to give the thing up, you've got to do a reframe where it's still giving you life and energy because you're still going to manage it, right? So when it comes to, are you safe to receive, you have to start being able to receive something from yourself, right? One of my mentors put this so beautifully, and she gave an example of it, and she said, when somebody gives you a gift, how do you receive it? Are you a grateful receiver, or are you the kind of receiver that's like, oh yeah, thanks, but doesn't love it? Because here's the thing, nobody wants to give to that kind of a receiver. Maybe you think you play it off really well. You don't. Not at all. And that person isn't going to want to go out and buy you something better because of the way that you received this thing. Right? So be grateful for that 5 minutes that you have for yourself at the beginning. Be grateful for that 1% profit that you have gotten from your business to start with. You want it to be wrapped in gratitude. You do not want it to be wrapped in scarcity or lack, right? And so I sat with that thing, sat with the thought of how could I actually take money from my business, right? And what was interesting was the thing that I was so worried about was it was a matter of worthiness is what was actually coming through. And I kept sitting with it, and I sat with it, and I sat with it, and I was like, you know what? No, like, this is the work and the effort that you've put into the business. You absolutely deserve it, and you're open to receive more. Because guess what? If you're running your business and you're receiving money through the business, it's because you're actually good at what you're doing. Huh. Isn't that interesting? So, if you were struggling to receive money through your business or to receive in general, one, as an entrepreneur, definitely check out Profit First. It will rock your world. It's going to be real uncomfortable, but it's going to be real good for your future growth. Okay. Number two, sit with yourself. Spend some time and reflect on why is it, or again, what is it that you need to receive, right? For me, I needed to give to myself first. I needed to do something that was simply for me, that had no other impact. I mean, it did have an impact on my family, but something that was 100% for me, that wasn't like, oh, I'm cleaning the house because I want my house to be clean for my kids, right? That kind of thing. No, it was like, what can I do 1,000% for me? Read a book. That does nothing, right? Oh, my children benefit from a random novel that I'm reading. No, but I enjoy that, right? So you've got to give to yourself first. You've got to find that. Otherwise, you're going to end up eventually being resentful of your family or friends or of your business. And nobody wants that. You can't grow from a space of resentment. So I'm going to end there. I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day. And as always, be you, because the world needs more of you. Bye.